Hey, listen, Daddy, you're listening to the #1 broadcast, Monte and Pharaoh, Daddy, in Long Island. The best pro wrestling broadcast of all time, I think.
Hey everybody, this is Action Smash Demolition, and you're listening to the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
The #1 wrestling show on Long Island. Unbelievable show. Watch it, listen, make sure and listen.
This here's the legendary Warlord, and I'm at Long Island's the best radio there is, the Monte and Pharaoh Show. I like it, you like it, and we'll all like it.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, straight out of Indie Music TV here on in Ronkonkoma, Long Island. Right
here.
At the board, we've got none other than producer Matty Ice. Matty, how are you, bud?
Doing fabulous today.
And to the right is the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you, my friend?
Still getting over Matty Ice. What's going on?
Great shows last week with Mike Knox and
Yes.
Savio Vega.
Yes, sir.
Thoughts on that, brother?
Awesome. Mike Knox was a pisser, and Savio Vega was great. It was just one after another.
Well,
Bang, bang, bang.
We've got a very special guest, Mr. Dr. Dre in studio. But before we get to this legend,
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about Howard Stern.
What?
Wanted to give your thoughts on something, right?
What's up with Howard?
Recently, the Post came out with an article about Howard.
The Post.
Yeah.
All right, I'm already weary, but go on.
The Post is a reputable
compared to the
newspaper.
Daily News and the Times.
Oh,
is
I'm going to ask
wagging.
Dr. Dre
Everybody
to
knows
weigh
it.
in too. So.
Stop it. Go on.
But anyway,
What
so it
the
reveals
Post
that Howard Stern seems not to treat his employees too well.
Is that so?
Page 6 is reporting that Stern has an icy behavior.
Icy.
And Scott Salem, his longtime engineer, his wife became ill.
Okay.
And he wanted to start a GoFundMe page.
All right.
And he was permitted to do that, but he was not allowed to use the Howard Stern show in any form or fashion.
Wow.
And then Howard, turns out he didn't give any money to Scott's wife, and unfortunately later on she passed away.
Did they have some sort of personal problem between the two of them?
I don't know.
Or there things I don't know about that the Post probably doesn't either?
He's worked for him for 33 years.
It's pretty
so,
bad.
Right?
On the surface, that looks pretty awful. I mean, what can I say? On the surface, it looks terrible, but what business is this of mine anyway?
Well, the only reason I bring it up, it
Yeah.
seems like the world, the way we are right now, you're like, if you're a comedian,
yeah.
you get some kind of pass.
Do you?
Yeah, why
Lenny
not?
Bruce didn't get a pass back in the 60s. Why is
We're not
Howard-
talking about Lenny Bruce, though. We're talking about Howard Stern, right?
Okay, fine.
Right, so like, Donald
right.
Trump doesn't get a pass.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon, keeping it to wrestling, doesn't get a pass.
Vince never gets a pass.
But
Right.
Howard Stern, clearly he has ex-employees that
Well,
feel he
do
treats.
you think he's getting a pass, or does he have a lot of people on Twitter
I don't
now
see
raging about Howard
anybody
being a
on
bad
social
person?
media ripping this guy apart. This article
Right.
just came out.
I don't even know what to think about it.
Anyway, I want to get to the special guest, the legendary Dr. Dre, after this commercial break, and maybe Dr. Dre wants to weigh in on Howard Stern.
Fair enough. We'll be right back. And Nitro's Garage for all your automotive needs. Call 646-675-2349. That's 646-675-2349. For all your automotive needs, Nitro's Garage. Ask for Jack.
You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence. Collision Specialists. 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence. You need a body?
That's right, folks. Canine Corral.
for all your dog daycare and overnight care. Call 631-549-1544. That's 631-549-1544.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. This is a Friday, and we have the legendary Dr. Dre in house. Doctor, thank you.
Hey!
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. But let me tell you something. The first time I came down to this studio, this is the first time I came down to this studio. You were telling me a problem that was going on. What seems to be the problem?
Well, we opened up the show talking about Howard Stern, right? Is that what you're reaching
Howard Stern, that's right, Howard Stern. Now, you know I've known Howard Stern for many years. Howard Stern, born out of here in Roosevelt, Long Island. Roosevelt, Long Island. Believe it or not, before the black people moved in, Howard Stern and his family were living in Roosevelt, Long Island. Now, Howard Stern's not playing an employee who's been there for 33 years? What kind of mess is that?
I agree.
He's a billionaire. Come on, he can write him off in an afternoon. Now, I can't tell Howard what to do with his money. I can't tell Howard what to do with the gentleman's GoFundMe, but come on. Can we have a little heart?
Thank you.
Can we have a little passion? Can we have a little bit of love in the room? Now, I remember back in the days when I was on Hot 97 with my partner, Ed Lover, we did beat Howard Stern in the ratings. Yes, we did.
Ooh. Yes, baby. Yes,
but
baby.
we would have contributed to that, man, before GoFundMe existed. It would have been called Go Dre. We'd have gone to Go Dre, and I'd have dropped him some money.
That's right.
That's what you do, because we all live on this planet together, and we all must live with a little bit of love. Love is important. Love will get you through to anything. And I understand Howard does time on a therapist's couch. He does what they call it, psychotherapy, or
that's what he claims.
Well, like
that's
Tony
what he claims.
Soprano?
Right?
He does that. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I did that 6 or 7 times. Didn't do anything to my personality. But, you know, God bless him. God bless him. God bless his wife and their paintings and their kids. I can understand that. But Howard, all you have to say one time on your show is, could everybody send that gentleman $5?
That's fair.
$5.
Yeah.
So if he had 8-9 million viewers, send him $5. His wife would have a very pleasant departure from this plane.
I think they got about $78,000. Now you just said 9 million listeners, right, or whatever he gets,
especially on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
78 grand. That seems like a travesty. And if you can't mention the show that you work on, it's ridiculous.
Look, in these days and times, 78 grand goes by like. I know. I have a GoFundMe page, and my 78 grand has disappeared like, and I didn't even get 78 grand. But for Howard Stern to sit there, I can't judge him because that's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to give him some acknowledgement and to say, Howard, we love you. We love all the things you've done for so long. You, your family, and everybody that's worked for you. Next time, you don't have to even reach in your pocket. Just say, if everybody gives a guy $5, $5. Come on.
That's $45 million.
It's
a lot of money.
9 million people, $5 a pop. That's I think that's $45 million.
But say he only gets 100,000 people. It helps the young man. It helps the man.
Sure.
He's been there helping you for 33 years. Show him the bone every year.
I guess my point to you was the agenda-ridden thing, right? Howard's a comedian. He gets this pass. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
You know, we can't always tap on people who are affluent and have worked real hard for the money they made.
Right.
But we can show compassion. We can show love. We can actually reach out and help each other. That's the time we're in, especially right now with what's going on with COVID, what's going on just in general to all different types of other organizations like the Junior Diabetes Research Foundation, the American Diabetes Association. You know, folks need, money to keep these places running. Everybody's not Michael J. Fox. Yeah. He's brilliant. He raises a lot of money for MS and what's going on with him. But we all got to be able to help contribute, because the thing is, you never know who's going to need it, especially in your family. Just because you can write a check and it can go away doesn't mean everybody can do that. And that's the thing about what's going on today with these vaccines and stuff like that. I say people should do their research. People should understand that, yes, it did go quick. These things came out of nowhere, but we have to make a proper decision for not only us, your family, your friends, and even your enemies. So Howard, I'm not reaching your pocket to ask you to spend $1, but to make a mention for this man, what does that cost you? What does it cost you?
In your dealings with Howard in the past, because you said you crossed paths with him several times over the years, are you
Yes.
surprised that he has taken this stance against a 30-plus year employee?
But we don't know if it's Howard. Is it management? Is it
Right.
somebody saying Howard said it? That's what we got to be careful, because there's always
Right.
these entourages. That's why I don't have an entourage. I have my daughter and my kids.
There you go.
That's a big enough entourage for me.
There you go.
I can't handle it after that.
It's an
So when
entourage
they-
you can trust.
That's right. When they say no, I got to say, hey, they said no, I got to walk away.
Wow.
So we don't know what transpired directly. It is an article on page 6. But again, 33 years, went on Howard, $5 from just say 1,000 of your listeners could have helped him greatly. We don't know. We don't know. So that's why I'm always cautious to stay and say, oh, let's jump on Howard about it. Because we don't know. He might have said, look, I gave the guy $200,000 quietly. But he couldn't mention it. And, whatever deal they cut, we don't know.
So, Dre, have you always thought like this, though, or did you have a different perspective when you were younger?
Always thought like this. I come from a family that's very political. We did a lot of community work. Done a lot of community service in my day. Oh, boy, I tell you that. And, you got to understand something, that we live on this planet together. It's just like wrestling. You can't have wrestling without another opponent.
Right.
And sometimes you got to have 4 or 5 of those opponents, and you got to put a cage up. It's called the cage match.
Yeah.
But guess what happens? The audience enjoys it. The athletes enjoy it. And the viewers who are at home, like myself as a young kid, I was jumping off the top of my bunk bed and slamming my brother years ago. It's a beautiful thing.
That's beautiful.
But you have to embrace those things and understand a lot of that comes from the love we get from being entertained by such shows. I mean, I started back at AWA, into the WWF, into the WWE, all the way to where we are today. Wrestling is it's a way of life.
So, wait, you grew up in New York, right?
Yes,
So
I grew up right here on Long
So
Island.
you were a WWF guy.
No, the AWA back
No,
when
but that's what I'm saying. How do you venture into the AWA being from New
You
York?
just watching the
Because-
ESPN show?
No, I'm talking about the one that used to come on Channel 9 at midnight.
Okay.
And after that, the roller derby came on with the women.
Right.
That's how far back I go.
Okay.
I go back to the time when TV was off after a certain hour.
Right.
And they did the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's like,
Yeah, the national anthem would come
that's
on
what I said.
midnight.
TV's
Right.
fit?
Yeah.
My father said, would you go to sleep and turn the idiot box off? He said, because if you sit in front of it long enough, you become an idiot. But yeah, I used to
I
watch
agree.
wrestling on Channel 9, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Hulk Hogan, and we were so impressed. And Rowdy Piper was one of my favorites, because I couldn't believe he had a kilt on.
Yeah.
And Piper's Pit, I loved it. The $1 Million Man, all of those guys. Stone Cold Steve Austin, all of those guys progressed through all of that. The Junkyard Dog, the Legion of Doom, all those, the Undertaker. Yeah, come on.
You still watch wrestling today?
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. I remember when I challenged The Rock to a fall.
Challenge the
I
Rock?
challenged The Rock straight up. I said, I think you're a candy ass. And he said, do you understand that I have to beat you now? I said, I'd like to see you try it. And I ran fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't catch me.
It's understandable.
But I think somewhere in his future he's going to catch me one day.
Well, he smells what you're cooking.
He already smelled what I was cooking. And it wasn't ribs, ladies and gentlemen.
That's pretty funny.
It wasn't ribs.
Oh, my
But
God.
no, I have fun with those guys. I love it. See, when you understand what it is, and I remember when Rocky 3 came out, and Mr. T was fighting with Hulk Hogan in wrestling, I said, there's no way Mr. T is going to go out there and wrestle with these guys. And Hulk Hogan was out there because he was Thunder Lips on Rocky 3, but we knew it was Hulk Hogan. But then I liked when he was in the NWO. Love wrestling. The energy from wrestling is so great.
Dre, how did you feel about the controversies with what Hogan has, gone through in the recent years with the tape and what he had said? How did you feel about all of that, knowing that you loved watching Hogan wrestle? Then you hear some of the racist comments and
Look, let me explain the whole prejudicial comments
Please.
people make. And we have to understand the time they make it
Okay.
and how we've evolved. The best part of that word is evolving. And he understood, and he can look back and say, you know what, I was wrong, I made a mistake. The one thing about me is I live with forgiveness.
Okay.
You got to forgive the guy. Look, you can't wipe out all the other good things he did for all of the Hulkamaniacs and all them folks out there that followed him and ripped their shirts off. And he had to change his thinking. Because when we talk about when I started watching wrestling, there was a certain sense of thinking in this country that existed. It's just what it was.
Right.
But we are evolving. If we can sit back and say, hey, man, you need to change that. I don't like you saying that way to me. Just like you don't like me calling you a big buffoon. That's not good for you. So let's find better ways to communicate, but also understand at the heart who that person is. So yes, he made some very off-color comments, but who doesn't?
Right.
We don't live in a society where everything is perfect.
Right.
But we can express ourselves and communicate in a fashion that I can tell you, you know what? You could get away with that, then we've moved on. Let's move on. As you mentioned earlier about Lenny Bruce in the 50s, they went after him. George Carlin used to talk about the seven deadly words he couldn't mention.
Right.
There's a lot of great comedians. Milton Berle. I mean, I'll go through the list of them. This is prior to anybody doing the censorship thing. Shecky Green of the world. They all did it. Don Rickles, one of my favorites.
Sure.
Called everybody a hockey puck.
Sure.
I know what that meant. But when you go behind the scenes and you see what this man does,
Right.
you got to go, wait a minute. Because at one point in my life, I used to think Frank Sinatra was a bad man.
Oh, Sinatra
But
was
Sinatra,
quite the civil rights fighter.
after
from what I
doing
understand.
my research
Yeah.
and seeing all the things he did for people of color, and Sammy Davis, I mean, tremendous things. He was breaking ground before it was popular.
Right. Right.
So it's like, who am I to judge him on this incident when there's a whole journey of his life that you have to understand? So even for Hulk Hogan and for any wrestler out there, that word flies out there, the N word flies out there, other words fly out there. We know that. I remember the Iron Sheik, and he was got to be the bravest man on the planet. He was out there after terrorist attacks were happening.
Sure.
Right.
And he still went out there.
Did
And
his
he had to
thing.
face all that
Well, then
vitriol.
again, you'll do anything for $100,000, right?
Exactly.
So you said something very interesting. You talked about the evolution of this country and its people. The three of us are close to this. We're in the same realm of the same age, right? Do you think today's youth is gaining or really, I'm trying to put in the right words, are they really becoming real Americans, what this country was supposed to be based on? Like, you know, with the three of us, right? I agree with everything you're saying, but do you think today's youth are more sensitive to what's happening and understand how this country was supposed to be built, and they're going to make it into the America that this country was supposed to be based on?
I think what's happening with the youth is they're actually speaking the way it was spoken 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago.
Bingo.
When Malcolm X and Martin Luther King walked and spoke their mind, they now have the one thing they didn't have. They have technology. So when they speak amongst each other, they can reach each other around the country. And I'm not just talking about black and brown folks. I'm talking about white folks, Asian folks, green folks, purple folks. Everybody can start to speak. So we now can get a better understanding of what this country was supposed to be about. See, this country wrote, very simple, in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And we don't understand the fight that happened when John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and many others were fighting for equality of all people that were here. But we had to go through a process. So then we got to the Constitution where we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice and pure domestic tranquility. See, that's the thing. Everybody, because we grow up so far apart, but yet we're so close. And what technology does now, it doesn't bring us closer together. Put the technology down and go shake a hand and sit down with somebody. Grab a beer, grab a glass of wine, smoke a dooba, whatever you do. That you can talk to each other and say, you know what? I wasn't raised like that. My grandfather told me this, because your color of your skin, you're this way. And then I hang out with you, and I don't feel that at all. You see, once we tear down that wall of prejudice, that's why we throw the racism word out there too fast. Racism is an economic term. It's not really a term of, what should I say? A term that deals with your attitude. Prejudice is your attitude. That's why the prefix of the word is prejudge. And we fall into that because everybody stereotypes each other because everybody wants to feel comfortable in their skin. So let's get comfortable in our skin. Let's all get naked and get in the pool. Some are going to be a little longer than others. Some are going to be big at the top. Some are going to be smaller.
Some are going to be really tiny.
Exactly. But guess what?
You know,
We're starting somewhere. And you got to start somewhere. So the youth today.
we may have to start in the kiddie pool, but go on.
Hey, you do what you got to do. Some may have to take an extra shower. But the bottom line,
There you go.
the bottom line, the youth are trying to show that they paid attention to what's going on in the past, and they see nothing took place. We're still stuck in the same muck and mire, and we shouldn't be. Why are we debating over helping people right now who are unemployed, who are sick, and we're playing games in Congress with people who are like 80 years old, still operating on an 80-year-old mentality?
Nailed it. Yep.
We're not
Agree.
operating on today's world.
They took the summer off while everybody's in need of an epidemic.
How are you taking a vacation and people are dying?
Yeah,
We're over
I don't know.
300,000 and counting.
Yep.
So when I talk about this vaccine, I don't tell people go take it because I said so. I say go do your research. Talk to your doctors. If you don't have a doctor, find somebody in the family. Find a friend who works in a nursing home, someone who works at a hospital, someone who works at urgent care, and get your facts.
Right.
And then make an informed decision. That's what we need to start doing.
Dre, I got to ask you while I have you here. Our generation, see, back in the 60s, of course, the youth was expressing themselves. They were looking for better ways. And the older generation back in the 60s was terrified of them. Dre, is that what our generation is currently experiencing with the younger generation? Are we afraid of what they may or may not do as far as radical change to the things that we consider normal?
Look, coming from a guy that was born in the 60s and was around when rap music and hip hop started, and watching the radical attitudes of great R&B, rock and roll artists, folk artists, and I was saying, wait a minute, rap's been around since Abbott and Costello and Danny Kaye. What are you talking about? Ella Fitzgerald. I mean, I can go through a ton of people, but it was a different form. So when we came out with this CNN from the streets, this MSNBC, this Fox News, that we came directly with what was exactly happening. And we put a beat behind it, and we decided to shake our booties to it. It threatened people. Like, well, what are you doing? You can't do that. I said, what are you talking about? Our constitutional rights tell us we can do that. So when people throw out the Second Amendment right, Second Amendment agenda, when they were talking about a Second Amendment, they didn't have an AR-15. They didn't have 9mm pistols.
That's true.
They were talking about the British coming in and knocking their door out, banging their wife, and screwing the sheep too.
With a mullet.
Wait, with a mullet.
With a mullet.
And a one-shot, come on.
Right.
Things evolved.
And a butter knife.
Those documents were meant to live and grow with the society.
Right.
Not, we're going to just hang in here and this is the only thing. And that's where the conflict is. To ease the conflict, we have to pull that rug up and get the dirt from under that rug and say, you know what? We all screwed up. We all screwed up. But right now, we all have to come together. And we have to love each other first and foremost. I'm not a religious man at all.
Okay.
I'm a very spiritual man.
Okay.
I come from a higher spirit. I talk with the master planner. And believe me, that spirit guides me in everything I do.
Terrorism concern you? I'm sure it does.
Terrorism, Americans were terrorists. We were.
Gotcha.
Ask somebody from Great Britain.
Gang.
We didn't fight. Who stood on a field and said, okay, we'll go toe-to-toe with the Redcoats. They got 20,000 troops. We got 2,000. Let's see if we can win.
Let's sneak up behind them.
Exactly. They were the first guerrilla warfare soldiers
There you go.
in the world.
Damn, you're
Because
smart, man.
you couldn't beat the Redcoats on the field.
So let me ask you this, though. Aren't you afraid that we're heading towards a socialist government?
No. We are a socialist government. We have Social Security. Don't we have that already?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. We're a
moving
capitalist government with some social...
We've had Social Security since FDR.
Right.
And look how many people it helps.
Right.
Yeah, so we have
That's not-
some socialism behind a capitalist society,
Are we a
though.
mixture?
But as a let me tell you, as far as capitalism is concerned, it's great on paper. It doesn't work in practice. After the society evolves,
Interesting.
it just does not.
Okay.
Because there's too many people. You say, oh, well, the pull yourself by the bootstraps. You didn't. You didn't. Oh, but I did this and I built that. Yeah, you did. But what about all the other people that you built it on? Like, I can't stand and say, oh, Dre, you're a super legend. You built this rap and hip hop thing. You just, no. I was a fan.
Wait a minute.
I was a fan of this music.
I'm going to disagree, and we're going to take a commercial break.
absolutely
But
correct
I'm
to
going to
disagree.
say to you, and with all due respect, you went into an era where MTV was solely hair metal, white, young music,
Boy, did he-
and you broke the wall
He
down.
slammed it down.
Okay,
yeah.
I was there. I watched it
remember.
happen.
Yep.
So I think you're undercutting what you have done for rap music and who you are. I have to be honest there.
I thank you for that praise, and I love you for that blessing. But I'm going to explain to you the real. I'm going to say 6 letters. Run, D, M, C. Then I'm going to say a guy's name who I love, Prince. And then I'm going to say the real man who broke the wall down was Michael Jackson.
Sure.
Sure.
They broke the walls down.
There you go.
What we did, we went for ours, and you can go for yours. That's what we do. That's what the whole essence of what rap music was. But even prior to that, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five with The Message broke the barriers on MTV. What we were blessed at doing, because of a man named Peter Doherty, the late great Peter Doherty, and the late great Ted Demme, whose forevision of this music, of this culture, found a fat black guy from Long Island and a tall skinny guy from Queens
There you go.
and Fab Five Freddy, who I'm a big fan of, and put this crazy program on called Yo MTV Raps. And the crazy part about it was I was in the pilot unknown
Right.
because I was introducing Public Enemy on stage, who Chuck D and I went to school at Adelphi University. So Run DMC did the pilot, and I'm at the Def Jam tour introducing it, and months later, Peter Doherty, who knew me because I was DJing for the Beasties for a while, I even wrote a song on the Raising Hell album with my group Original Concept called Proud to Be Black. So we had an understanding of what we did on MTV. And the one promise Ed and I made to ourselves from day one, we would never be MTV. We were going to be us. Stay who we are. So when you got to see it and you saw us not try to take your hair bands down, because I loved AC/DC, I loved Led Zeppelin, I loved Poison. I mean, I go down the list. I had all those records. I'm a DJ. That's what I did. I DJ'd many a wedding, bar mitzvah, social gathering, and they all weren't black. Trust me. So I had all that exposure in those music. So when Aerosmith and Run DMC got together to Walk This Way and knock that wall down, and I sat in the audience and watched that video being made, I said, who knows where we're going to go? So when Ted Demme tricked me at a spring break in Daytona at the Texan hotel, and they were shooting Spring Break with Downtown Julie Brown, and he said, Dre, I'll get you a date with Downtown Julie Brown, but I want you to do something. I said, what, Ted? I want you to paint a number 1 on your stomach. What? Why are you exploiting the black guy? No, just, and then when it's going to be the number 1 video in Spring Break, you're going to blow up. It's going to be great. And him and Ed sat there and conned me. And they stuck me in a corner and put towels over me and sheets, and they walked me out there, they pulled it off, and I jumped off the diamond board with a number 1. I became the number 1 highlight for the year.
Wow.
So when you go to break barriers, sometimes it's not your mouth, it's your actions. So after 3 spring breaks later, Ed and I are standing on a stage after a hurricane with 65,000 kids from college of all different walks of life, different colors, with Biz Markie, Tribe Called Quest, leaders of the new school, and others. And we stood out there and we said, I think we just blew up. I think we just brought everybody together. And that was the essential thing that Yo MTV Raps did. We brought everyone together. We wanted to make sure that we had predecessors that were greater than us. Don Cornelius and Soul Train, I idolized.
Soul Train.
You know, I idolized Dick Clark and American Bandstand. I mean, even Denny Terrio and Dance Fever. I'm a big fan of John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. Big fan. I used to wear the polyester. I used to walk around thinking, doom, doom, doom. Look at my walk. Look at my walk. But when we did Yo MTV Raps, I didn't have to fake it.
Man.
I didn't have to be Dr. Dre. I was and am and still are. It's bad grammar, but my mother will kick me in the butt. Dr. Dre. And so was Ed. And so was T Money. And Fab Five Freddy. We didn't look for the accolades. So when we got shunned, I went to many a Video Music Award, and we didn't even get to announce a video. We were the most popular people on the channel. They came up with rules and excuses. Oh, well, no VJ is giving out awards. We weren't VJs.
No.
We were hosts.
Right.
And our show garnished people like Mel Gibson in a kilt. Very funny. Howard Stern was on Yo MTV Raps. Yes, he was. Our first guest was Carole King, who had a hit Broadway show. First guest on Yo MTV Raps today was Carole King. You know why? Ed and I were shooting the show. She was sitting on a grandstand in the studio. And I said, Ted, who is that? So Ted walked over there and I said, it's Carole King. Which want to be on the show? I said, yeah. And they were like, but she's not into rap. Come on, bring her in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come on, bring her in. So when I met Arnold Schwarzenegger at the the fitness thing, and he said, I got to get the weight off of you. I said, I got to get the weight off of you. Look at you, you're all swollen up. We joked and laughed because he knew who I was. Am. So our goal was to bring those things down. We were for social media before the computer was there. And Alan Hunter was one of the guys that tried to train me on working on computers.
Did you come across any resistance as the show was taking off from anybody behind the scenes giving you an attitude or being afraid of the ground you were breaking, the walls you were knocking down? Did you come across any of that?
Our resistance was no resistance and a lot of resistance, and I'll explain that real simple. A gentleman by the name of Bobby Brown, he was in a group called New Edition, was the #1 artist of the moment with a song called My Prerogative. Ed and I saw Bobby at a party. We were hanging out at Tuesday night. We taped on Wednesdays. I said, hey, Bobby, man, why don't you come by? Do Yo. Yeah, I'm going to come by. What time? Told him, yeah, he's never going to show up at the National Studio. Never, man. Bobby's crazy. And I knew Bobby when he was just a New Edition.
Right.
That's how long I've known Bobby. And I hung out with Bobby when he was king of stage with his brother Tommy and my brother Fred. We all hung in the same limo together. So we went to tape that week. And Ted wasn't there. So we were doing it ourselves. The other producer, Mo Zenbro, I believe, was there. No, Ted wasn't there. I remember. Because he didn't even know. And we did a whole week with Bobby Brown. Unbeknownst to MTV. No one knew.
Okay.
Bobby did the Ed Lover dance. We got down. We talked history. We had jokes. Everything. Bobby Brown. Biggest star on the planet. Nobody knew. Flicked on Yo MTV Raps the next week because we always taped a week ahead. Bobby Brown comes dancing across the thing. How did you do this? We've been trying to get him on MTV, and now he refuses. Because he was on MTV. He was on Yo MTV Raps. He didn't want to be on MTV. He wanted to be on Yo MTV Raps today.
Wow.
With Dr. Dre and Ed Lover.
With that, we're going to take a quick commercial break and get back with the legendary Dr. Dre.
And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
Jimmy, I got to take a dump. What? No. I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP. The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's number one pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh.
Number one, Mikey, number one.
Number one.
What you gonna
Produced
do,
out of Indie
brother?
Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. But we have a special Friday holiday edition, right? Because the holidays are coming up, and we've got the legendary Dr. Dre. Doctor
Yes, sir.
Dre.
I'm feeling very Clausish. Like in
Clausish?
Santa Clausish.
Oh.
I'll tell you what.
I'm looking. I forgot my little bag, so I can bring some presents to you.
Oh,
you-
man.
But I'm trying to give you these gifts.
You
You
are
can't
giving
tell
gifts.
somebody's religious background unless they say it, right? Because like Santa always passes over my house because of the Jewish thing. So if you
No,
got
he doesn't.
something, he doesn't.
Look. I'm as Jewish as you, believe it or not.
Did you get presents at Christmas? I didn't.
Look, let me tell you something.
is terrible.
I'm as Jewish as you. I got so many Jewish friends.
Oy.
You'd be surprised. I used to sit shiver.
Oh, I was shivering outside. It's
I know.
cold.
I'm shivering too. Oh, you killed my joke. But
Dr. Dre Witz.
I used to.
Trailwitz?
I used to go to temple.
There you go.
Yes, I did.
There you go.
And I went to temple. I went to church, and after a while, I even went to the mosque. I went everywhere.
Right.
Because
right.
I wanted to understand
Yeah,
and learn.
I
and
get it.
all my friends came in all different shapes, sizes, colors,
I totally
religious
get it.
backgrounds.
That's what I'm
everything.
talking about.
I
That's
get
a
it.
guy who.
But I've done that too.
Yeah, but you know, I know.
Not
you
like
have.
him though. He's a. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to get off subject. So you were speaking about Bobby Brown.
Yes.
Oh.
Does Bobby Brown get a bad rap for the death of Whitney Houston?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing about that is, and Bobby's done many great interviews about it, and even members of New Edition, Mike Bivens and company, and Ralph Tresvant and Johnny Gill, they all talk about that. It's like it was always his perception. Bobby had a bad boy perception. He did. He was a young kid who blew up and was a megawatt star with New Edition. Then when he went off and he went on his own, like he said, it's his prerogative. But between what happened between Bobby and Whitney should stay between Bobby and Whitney. We don't know when the cameras were shut off after their reality show what really went on. We know, oh yeah, Bobby was always in the jail. Bobby always owed this. Bobby always owed that. Yeah, because Bobby was that type of person. Okay, Bobby wasn't raised and graduated from Harvard. Bobby was raised in the street. Bobby was a survivor. So was members of his family. And so was Whitney Houston, believe it or not, in her own way. And people started finding it out after Whitney's death, which is a tragedy. We missed that voice. I was just listening to Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, the song "If There Can Be Miracles" from the what's it called, the Prince of Egypt soundtrack. Great song. We missed that voice. We missed that love. And the one thing you can do is later on you can go check out this spring, because it was supposed to come out this year, but because of COVID, I pulled it back because I didn't want to start sign autographs with a hazmat suit and a Sharpie. My book called Yo Bigger Stuff, the Dr. Dre episodes from 1989 to 1995. Now, because we pushed it back, it's gone to 1983, to my early days when I started with Public Enemy, my group Original Concept, WBAU, Mr. Bill Stephanie, Spectrum City, The Concept, and of course the inimitable one himself, MC DJ Flavor, aka Flavor Flav, because Chuck, Harry Allen, the media assassin, and Bill Stephanie were in the same black music class. That's how we met at Adelphi University. So in my book, I go into detail about this, and even different interviews that I've done. I did an interview on Vlad TV, which garnished over 1.5 million people paying attention to it, because they're like, I'm like, I can't believe like you've done all of that. And I said, I still got so much more to do. I've done, for me in my life, I've done nothing. I'm like, I took a few steps. And the thing all along the way is, the one thing about our group, and I call my Adelphi crew at WBAU at 90.3 FM, the greatest incubator I had in my life. Because we all became marketers, artists, film stars, television stars, video stars. We did all of these things in this incubator before there was a Yo on TV Raps, before MTV decided to mess with us. We found ways to get it out there, and we hustled the street like no one else. And that's in the book coming up.
You guys were perfecting your craft before everybody else knew it, you know.
And didn't know it.
Right.
All we knew is 2 turntables and a microphone,
That's awesome.
and we would rock parties. We would rock park jams with thousands and thousands of people, and police would come up. You guys got to stop it. There's going to be a riot breaking out, because you're just cutting the music off. All those people were dancing. They were having a great time. The MCs were keeping the crowd moving. The DJ was keeping the butt swaying. Then you came on with your craziness. See, that's where the friction comes in. Rather than going and speaking and witnessing what's going on,
Right.
you got to take a moment out. And I believe that reflects on the early days of rock and roll. After I watch all these different documentaries, movies with different artists, and I say, man, we did the same thing they did, but we did it our way.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it all.
Speaking of the early days of rock and roll, I'm really curious. I was fortunate enough to work with Eddie Kramer, who was Jimi Hendrix's producer in recent years, and he said something to me in one of our conversations in between sessions that really blew my mind regarding Jimi. We all knew that Jimi Hendrix was shy about his voice, but Eddie was positive that if Jimi Hendrix had gone on and lived and not passed tragically, that he would have gotten very heavily involved in rap music. Any thoughts on that?
He's still up here in rap music. Foxy Lady, come on, that's been sampled.
There you go.
I mean, I sampled Jimi Hendrix. I love Jimi Hendrix. But here's the thing, we got to look at life. And I say this because a good friend of mine just recently passed away. And he was a brother of mine. We grew up together. We got to celebrate the journey. Because if Jimmy would have lasted, would it have changed rock and roll differently? I believe so.
Right.
If Mama Cass didn't choke on a ham sandwich, would that have changed? I'm joking about that, but the point I'm trying to make is...
She did?
But the point I'm trying to make is...
Wait a minute, did she? Hold on.
Yeah, but they say Jimi Hendrix died, he choked on his own vomit. That's what happened. And if they'd have got to him in time and cleared his throat, he'd have been alive. It was just the master planner. We cannot stop. We got to stop trying to defy the master planner. Right. That's one reason why I don't go into buildings and people falling on the floor and screaming and hollering, acting silly, saying, "Oh, my God's the best God." No, it's not. The master planner is looking at all of us and laughing. Sometimes we plan, God laughs. I hear that all the time.
Oh yeah,
all the time. That's like saying, "Well, if Biggie was alive, what would he have been doing?" I don't know. If Tupac was alive, what would he have been doing? I don't know. But we lost a lot of people in this milieu of folks that passed away.
Do you chuckle when there's comparisons and debates over who was greater, Tupac or Biggie? I mean,
no comparison.
What's
I was
this,
there.
Dre?
I was there with both men.
Okay.
No comparison. They admired each other. They worked together. It came down to, once again, the entourages. That's what happens. Your guy's guy, who's the guy, tries to show the other guy who's tougher than the other guy so they can make a point. But if you put the two guys in a room and walked out, they're laughing and joking and smoking weed. That's what they did. They enjoyed that. Then they'd write lyrics, get on a microphone, let a beat play, and come up with a song. See, we got to stop that, all of that. Because a lot of folks out there, they're going at each other. And I say, why are millions? Could you imagine Elvis Presley and Elton John going at each other?
No.
Just wanting to fight?
I heard Paul McCartney was going to cap Mick Jagger, but then they thought better of it.
Think of that. It makes no sense.
Right. Were you disappointed when that was like? Look, to me, when this was coming out with the Tupac and the Biggie thing, the media was basically saying that, one side killed the other side. I mean, is this the kind of thing that you want to have the music attached to? I mean, publicly?
That wasn't the case either.
Right, but that's what they were telling everybody.
But the thing is, and that's the problem.
Right.
And that's the beauty of today's technology, social media.
We can put a stop to that.
You can put your truth out there.
Right.
But let's not believe everything that's thrown out there.
Please, yes.
Because people are saying the great legendary actor Keith David, he died. On the show Greenleaf. What are you talking? He died on a TV show. Then I saw him and I said, wait, just another movie.
I thought you were dead.
I thought you were dead. Yes, on Greenleaf.
Aye.
That's like, we do that because we want to be entertained. It's like watching wrestlers. When they fight and they jump off the top ring rope and they hit the ground, they got the chairs, they do all the stuff. Then they walk in the back room and laugh and put water on their head.
But again, I think it's like with everything. It's with politics. It's with religion. You said it in the beginning of the show, right? Do your homework. Do your homework and then make your decision, right?
Exactly. And if you don't like somebody, have a better reason rather than the color of their skin or the religion they subscribe to or who they like as a sexual partner. That's ridiculous.
Right.
That's ridiculous. Because if you know so much about the master planner, can I get his beeper number?
Yeah, really?
Can I get a text or something?
I got to hear your thoughts on
numbers.
this. I've always been a huge Ronald Reagan guy, right? I always thought Ronald Reagan was an icon for this country. Just my opinion.
Well,
recently, documentaries coming out talking about what he didn't do
What
and
they-
everything
Are they picking
that's
on
about.
him? Oh, you-
Again, we're almost the same age. We're very close to each other. We were around during that time, and
Sure.
we had enough intelligence to know what was going on. What were your thoughts on Ronald Reagan after you've read and heard everything?
I lived through Ronald Reagan.
That's right. We both have. So
And
my point.
unfortunately, and I say this with all due love
Sure.
to him, and I can forgive him at this moment, but when my father passed away and Ronald Reagan signed a piece of paper that wiped out my father's benefits and wiped out my benefits to go to school and made it harder for my mother and I and my family
things we learned.
to exist,
Go on.
and you did it with just malice and forethought, that you didn't realize all the other people. So you can sit there and say, oh, the welfare moms, this one, that one. But let's look at what's going on today. Not the welfare moms. Let's talk about Mitch McConnell and his crew and what he's doing to people who he doesn't even know. And he calls himself the Grim Reaper. I despised Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
Interesting.
I despised him. I saw nothing great in what he did
Interesting.
because of what you did to other people, not just to me.
Were there any presidents
You
that
hurt people purposely. Because then I can learn how to forgive and forget and admire. Because I watched Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush come together after Katrina. And I said, wait a minute, I thought he was the bad guy.
Interesting.
And I said, he's not the bad guy. Maybe he did things that he didn't understand. See, I can forgive you for that. Even when Reverend Al Sharpton went out with, what's the guy's name? Who's the Speaker of the House? I can't think of his name. And they went on a great tour together. And I disagree with everything he said. But for him to sit down with Reverend Al Sharpton and go out on tour, because he was a senator from Georgia. I'm sorry, I'm blank on his name.
Yeah,
at
you
this
got me
moment.
on this one too.
Yeah, but he was Speaker of the House.
Okay.
But they make decisions from that podium. Come off the podium. Walk the streets. And stop pointing the fingers at, oh, they're trying to do this. They're hustling. People don't want to do the stuff they do to survive that way. They want the same opportunities you afford that are afforded in the Constitution, that were written in the Declaration of Independence. That's all they want, the opportunity.
Any particular president in our lifetime, since we are of similar age, that you would say was at least a humanist? I mean, was there someone? Because Reagan is a very popular president, so I'm curious. Was there
But popular
someone?
with who?
You know what I'm getting at.
And I know
though.
what you mean.
You know what I mean.
look,
But
to
let's
be-
I'm
put
just
it.
cur- I'm just curious, though,
Let me
was
show
there-
you the flip of the coin.
Okay.
JFK is assassinated on the 22nd of November in '63.
Yeah.
Johnson takes over.
Oh, his furniture's in the office the next morning.
Right. But when Johnson takes over, the whole civil rights movement is afraid. Because they know what Johnson was saying.
Interesting.
We have the tapes of Johnson and his true words.
Right.
But when he sat behind that resolute desk and he started to understand, I am president of all the people. All the people. What I do matters to everyone. The greatest civil rights legislation was passed under Johnson.
Under Johnson, right?
Under Johnson.
I'm
Now, was that guilt because of what happened to Kennedy?
Why does
mean-
Johnson get such a bad rap?
Because
Why?
You thought Hulk Hogan said some things. Have you ever heard the tapes of Johnson?
Yeah, he's got some
Really?
really bad
Oh,
things,
No,
yeah.
not good.
But
Right.
again, let's examine the time he was saying it.
Okay.
He wasn't saying it in 1993.
Right. So
He was saying it in 1964.
So, question for you: when you read that someone wants to tear down Winston Churchill's statue, one of the men who stopped Adolf Hitler, what do you think about something like that?
I don't know why someone would want to take care of Winston Churchill's statue, because I question some things Winston Churchill did.
Right.
But the one thing he did do, he kept England free.
Okay. And
He did.
He did.
He did.
course.
I mean, it's like trying to make a decision between MacArthur and Truman.
Right.
MacArthur was a man of action.
Right.
Truman was a man of thought.
Right.
And he had to reflect. And I have to give credit to Truman, because Truman was the one who desegregated our army, our military force. He said, this is crazy. We're thinking crazy. We're still thinking like it's 1863.
Correct.
We're still thinking like it's 1763,
Right.
1663. What are we doing?
Right. Yep.
To be a better nation, to be a better people, to be a part of the commonwealth of the American fabric, we have to start embracing Americans.
You said something very interesting at the beginning of the programming, referring to the Constitution as something that was written, obviously, all those years ago, but needs to be flexible as we grow.
It's supposed to be a living document.
What do you do with something like, and you did say you're not religious, but what do you do with scriptures and religious texts? Those are even older than the Constitution. Do those breathe in today's world? Not really.
I believe
the fighting that goes on.
I believe the master planner has a greater plan.
Yeah.
I do not believe the master planner publishes.
I'm with you on that.
I believe the master planner asked us.
1,000%.
He asked us to do two things. Two. Love one another like you love me.
Right. Right.
Love one another.
Right.
Like you love me.
Well, apparently that's too difficult for us, but
we put it on paper. We make movies. We show
Right.
crazy images, and it's like,
right.
Master Planner says, I never said to do none of that.
Can we get back to basics? In other words, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
if
please.
the Beatles understood it,
Of course.
all
they
you
did.
need is love.
There you go.
Stevie Wonder, one of the greatest artists, one of the greatest lyricists of our day, speaks of nothing but love.
Right. Right.
So only
Earth, Wind, and Fire speaks of love. Even Elton John speaks of love.
Right.
Billy Joel speaks of love.
Even
When you
Ozzy
bring-
speaks of love.
When you bring
even
love,
Ozzy.
Ozzy,
He
love
does!
Ozzy.
It's got to
Love
get Ozzy in there.
I got it.
When you bring love into the equation,
Right.
it makes it difficult to hate. Because when you got hate, you got weight. You got to constantly come up with another story, another
like
scheme,
that. That's awesome.
another attitude.
Right.
You gotta to hate. You gotta really work at hate.
Then why is pure love always greeted with violence? Whether you're Martin Luther King, whether you're Jesus of Nazareth, why? What is it about the human condition that we can't seem to tolerate love?
Because someone sees someone with 2 rocks, and then there's another person that has 4 rocks.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
And then when you see that, you go, how come you got 2 more rocks than me? And I go, well, they gave me 4. Why do you have 4 and I have 2?
Is this condition curable?
Wait a minute, hold
by any
on.
chance?
Hold on, because I'm going to answer that question.
Go ahead.
Because we're a capitalist government.
True. But
Bingo.
if you bring into this that milieu, because most societies are isms. It's fascism, communism, socialism, capitalism. And if you understand the first 3 I mentioned, they failed. But when you start to do the right pieces from each one, and you don't have an autocrat in charge, and the people take responsibility for their existence. The people take responsibility for how they wish to live. The people stop trying to create lines and separate this one, and you start to live with people. You start to say, wait a minute, that we can be a capitalist in paper, but we can grow as a nation. Because if the nation is healthy, the people are healthy. If we have national health care, the simple right of life. See, you can't say, oh, stop abortions, but I'm not going to help you with health care. Well, you should work this way. You should do this. You should do that.
So I'm going to ask you this,
Really?
though, right?
That's how we should
doctors, you go to that kind of socialized medicine. That's what you're talking about,
No,
right?
I'm not talking about socialized medicine. I'm talking about national health care. It's not socialized. Why do we have to spend money on medicine? The Hippocratic Oath doesn't say anything about paying for it. When doctors who were better doctors in Westerns than we have today, with the technology, they didn't charge. You went in, you saved somebody. The farmer said, well, here's a pig, Doc. Thank you. Or, Doc, my wife is going to cook for you. Thank you for saving my son.
So I'm going to
Is that socialized medicine?
But hold on. A doctor, right? Part of capitalism is you want to be the best, right? You want to be the best host. You want to be the best wrestler. You want to be the best doctor because you want people to pay you the most so you can get these things from being the best. When you take that emotion or that drive away, Then you have Canada, right? And that's
Really?
Sure. You've got people from Canada, when they have to have heart surgery, they don't do it in Canada. They come here because they want to be around the best who get paid the best. You want the best lawyer, they're going to get paid the most.
But see, here's the opposite to that.
Go ahead.
I don't believe in malpractice suits. Why? Why are you going to sue a doctor for trying to save you and it didn't work?
It's a good
What
point.
happens? What happens?
But I don't know if we're talking about that right now, right?
Who do you think saves your life? Do you think a doctor saves your life, or do you think the master planner saves your life? Which is your choice? Do you think you have that type of control?
I think you have to, like flying in a plane, you have to give control, right? So whether
That's why I don't fly.
Whether you're religious,
You won't get me
I
on a
believe in
plane.
Christ, I believe in God. I hope it guides my way.
You believe in Christ?
Absolutely.
What does Christ look like to you? Be careful.
No.
Be careful.
What does Christ look like to me?
What does Christ look like?
So-
I'm gonna help you here.
Hold on.
I'm going to help
I'm
you.
going to tell you,
He's
and
a
then you could
Palestinian.
I'm
correct
going
me.
to help you.
Good.
Going to help you. You ready?
Go.
Beware.
He doesn't look like Jim Caviezel from Passion.
Beware.
Obviously.
Beware. Don't go to the book and flip the pages. You'll disappoint yourself.
There you go.
So,
Okay.
growing up as a Catholic, Roman Catholic, right? I always viewed Christ as a white, whatever they showed me, right? That is no longer my vision, though, right? We
But I said
evolved.
that's what he look
right?
like to you.
If I'm a smart man, I would say Christ was probably Egyptian in some sort of fashion,
He was Palestinian of
Yeah,
Jewish
you know,
descent.
you know,
he wasn't very tall.
He wasn't Jewish.
You know, well, of Hebrew, whatever the
he
tribes.
He was from Jerusalem.
Right,
He was a Hebrew.
right. Hebrew descent.
You know
that's
what
right.
Jesus looked like? Would you like to know?
sure, hit me.
You're looking at him.
I believe
You
it.
know who Jesus looked like? Go look in the mirror.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know who Jesus looked like? Look at the producer.
Amen.
Look at my daughter.
Amen.
Matty Ice.
Jesus.
Hey, Matty Ice.
Jesus, who walked this earth, this blessed planet, the Son of God, the Son of the Lord, not God, the Son of the Lord, was seen by so many different people. And if you just understand the region he walked in, he was obviously a man of color.
Absolutely.
In the description in the book that you part the pages, hair of lamb's wool. It's a fact. But what happens, and that's why I use this as parallel, we go to Hollywood, and then there's a casting director, then there's a studio, and there's a producer, and there's an actor, and then all these other things line up. Because don't get me wrong, let me tell you right now, I love watching the Ten Commandments. Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner, man, I watch that like that's the Avengers. Oh,
Are you-
My kids will tell you, they'll walk in the house, he's watching Ten Commandments again.
Are you trying to tell me that an Egyptian does not sound like this? Meh, Moses, meh, meh.
Moses.
G. Robinson was an Egyptian.
One thing I want to get into because it's very
But
important.
the point, no, seriously, the
Go
point
ahead.
I was trying to make, and I'll let you make yours.
Go.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
Is that's the beauty of what we are on this planet. That's who we really are. And once we start to understand that, and we understand the things and societal rules that man came up with, the master planner never said to do that.
Was the
The
Woodstock?
master planner never said, what I want you to do is get some paper and put some ink on it and put numbers next to it.
Right.
Because you know what he knew? The moment you do that, chaos ensues.
Yep.
How close to the?
Because why did they crucify Jesus and let Barabbas go? Barabbas was a murderer.
Right.
Barabbas was a thief.
Right.
Barabbas was the worst one. They said, "Oh no, it's Jesus is the problem."
Right. Sure.
We have to remember that when Jesus walked the planet, he walked on his IG page. He didn't have a lot of pictures. He had these 12 other crazy guys that were following him. And then when they went to tweet him from time to time, he said, "Come meet me on the mountain. We'll have a conversation." You see, he wasn't popular.
Right.
You see, people don't want to admit that.
Oh no.
He turned over the tables
That's right.
in the temple because
Yep.
he said, "This is not what my father said to do.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?" He set us here and said, enjoy the splendor of the planet. See, if we start doing that, and that's what COVID reveals. Because at the height of COVID in the early spring, when Venice, the river, cleared up and they saw the fishes, when the air over India started to be blue again, When all the planes that were flying around slowed down, the gas prices dropped to the bottom because we were settled.
Yeah.
And we were starting to work together as human beings on this planet. Because I can go on a preacher down in Houston that when this hurricane hit, he locked the doors of his parish.
Oh, gee, you're not talking about Joel, are
Hey,
you?
wait. Oh, wait till I
Your
get
best
there.
life now,
He
Dre.
said, wait till I get there. While you're drowning,
Oh, he's the worst.
you're in the middle of
Oh,
a
please.
hurricane.
Oh, please.
If I was a part of the
He's
constituency,
got nice teeth, though.
I would have walked to his house and thrown him and his
Oh,
wife out,
please.
took all the cars,
I
and
agree.
said, sorry, you need to find a new place.
I agree.
Because you got everybody fooled with technology,
Yeah.
but you can't offer an explanation. And I watched him mumble. I watched him try to find a way out of it. And I watched us forgive him, because that's what the master planner says.
Right.
Forgiveness is first.
Right.
And everything else falls into place. That's that love thing I'm talking about.
Was the 60s culture the closest to what you basically just spoke about as far as society attempting to try to get things right through love?
Which 60s?
The
The 1860s?
No, the
1960s?
Yeah, not the 1860s.
No, the
They were shooting
1960s.
each other. That wasn't good.
Remember that TV show, Happy Days?
Sure.
With Fonzie? I
We're
love
just talking about it. We love
I
Happy
love
Days.
Happy Days.
Hey.
You know why I loved Happy
Well,
Days?
first of all, let me correct you. Don't
What?
go further than this.
What?
Season 1 through 6. After that,
Yeah,
it
when
falls
Joni
off.
and
It kinda
Chachi
jumps-
come around, we're done.
It jumps the shark.
It gets
does
even
it.
worse when he
It
starts
happens.
dating the
He
girl
does.
with the kid and everything else. is
But that was good too, because they were evolving. But here's my greatest episode of Happy Days.
I was
Would you like to know which one it was?
I was
Sure.
Remember the episode where Richie and Potsy and Ralph's band lost the drummer,
Okay.
and Fonzie found a guy to drum for them. His name was Sticks,
Yes, Sticks! Oh my God!
and they were going to have a party at Arnold's,
Yes.
and Sticks was bringing his date Kathleen, but all around they said we can't come to the party. Why?
That's right.
Because Sticks and Kathleen. Sticks and Kathleen. And Fonzie got furious. I'm gonna go get them and I'm gonna force them. And Rich said, no, Fonz, you can't do that. Because they'll come, but they'll leave. And Sticks and Kathleen wanted to leave. And Richie said, no, we're gonna sit here and have a good time. And Arnold came out before he became Mr. Miyagi,
Yeah.
you know? And other people came out, Richie's parents, and you saw that Happy Days sticks with me.
Yeah.
And that's what made me believe if we had an opportunity to bring Happy Days to MTV, and Ed and I can play Sticks and Kathleen. I was Sticks. I wasn't playing Kathleen.
Right.
Anyway, the point is, for Gary Marshall to vision that and that crew, and Henry Winkler, and Ron Howard, and all those, an incredible cast. Why can't we do this today? So that was back before the 60s. Because what people don't realize, the 60s is a result of what King, Malcolm X, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad were doing in the 50s.
Yeah.
We lost Malcolm in the 64, excuse me. And the thing is, people were afraid of what Malcolm was saying because the truth, when it's seen, hurts. And what Dr. King was doing, he was saying, you guys wrote these rules on this paper. It's your parchment paper. I didn't make this stuff up.
Right.
I wasn't in Georgia and Atlanta. Why are you bombing churches with little girls in it? What did they do to deserve that? Pray? They're in prayer. See, so you have to pull that rug. And we got to go under that rug and get to that dirt and say, we really don't need this.
Can it happen?
You have people right now with a special election in Georgia threatening their own party members for voting. Why are we here? So when we talk about the 60s, we're in 2020, and it doesn't seem like anything has changed from the 30s, because all this acceleration of attitude started after World War II. It really did. Because technology, Jackie Robinson was playing baseball. Do you understand? We don't even understand what Jackie Robinson went through and Branch Rickey did to the world by doing that move. We don't even. You can't even talk to some young kid and say, "You know about Jackie Robinson? Yeah, number 42."
Right.
But they don't understand the struggle
What he had to
because the struggle isn't illustrated the same way they could see other struggles at this moment.
Well, fortunately, Jackie had his own Frank Sinatra. He had Pee Wee Reese
Yes.
to say, "Get the hell away from him. Leave him the hell alone.
Leave
He's my
it-
teammate."
Exactly.
You know?
And when that starts to happen, then Ronald Reagan wouldn't have signed that document the way he did. He would have thought about that. He would have said, wait, how many people am I affecting with this? Not people I know. Because at one point, he was a Democrat.
Right.
And he had those same emotions and feelings when he was the governor of California.
Right.
Sure.
So we understood.
Right.
So why did you go into the highest office in the United States and that just became a blur?
Have the way that the parties are publicly portrayed nowadays always been this way? Because now it seems so severe, the difference in opinions and what you believe in and who you are as a person, depending on whether you're Democrat or Republican. It's always been this way.
But it's just like wrestling.
There you go. Heels
You
and
gotta have
faces.
more than one league to make the best wrestlers rise to the top.
So who's the heel and who's the face? I guess Trump is going to play the bad guy here. He's
Yeah,
Morocco.
Look. Everybody knew what Donald was about.
Right.
When he ran,
Right.
when he won, everybody knew. But you sat complicit. Because if you understand the way politics really works in America and the presidency, that great economic boost was from Barack Obama and Joe Biden. It was. He did what? Tell me the legislation he passed that boomed the economy. Nothing.
I don't even know about any boom. Half the stores on my block are closed. So
No, now.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about when he says, "Oh, we stood over the greatest economic thing." No, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and that Congress and that struggle and those changes they made after George W. Bush created the economy with certain policies that just didn't work. I don't know nothing about no trickle-down theory.
right.
Trickle-down theory to
That
me
goes
means
back to Reagan,
I get to
right.
shower after my brother because the shower is dripping, and I got to get the last bit of hot water, or I got to wait about 9 to 5 hours.
Dre, we got about 3 minutes.
You know what I mean?
There's a fan out there, Danny Jimenez, wants to know, did you ever have a problem with the other Dr. Dre over your name?
Never. And if the funny part about it is my name comes from sports. It didn't even come from music. My partners told me I should use it because I used to be a New York Net ball boy. When a
really?
Group, well, yes. When a group of young men named John Williamson, Billy Paltz,
Oh,
Bill
John Williamson,
Melchioni,
number 23.
Larry Keenan,
Oh, man.
and the incredible Julius Dr. J.
Okay.
Irving.
Is that Kevin Lockery was coaching?
Also born in Roosevelt, Long Island.
There you go.
I adopted his style of basketball play. And they said, "You're Dr. Dre." And I said, "Yeah, that's a good name."
There you go.
So I used that like that, and I became a New York Nets ball boy because my godmother was an incessant basketball fan and hated going on a train to see the Knicks, but loved the Nets because it seemed like the Nets were more flamboyant. It was more showmanship, and it was. They had the three-point shot.
Yep.
Julius Erving was jumping from the top of the key, slamming the basketball. Larry Keenan was shooting three-point. I mean, you're talking about a team.
Legend has it that team challenged the Knicks and said, "Well," and the Knicks at the time had Reed, Frazier, DeBusschere, but they
Exactly.
said, "We'll play you, and we'll see what happens." And that game
And they
never happened.
declined.
Never
They
happened.
Well, when you're the best,
So
why
when
would you take a chance?
let me tell you
Nothing to
something.
lose.
But
That
this,
Dr.
but this
J
is
team
why
would've
I
given
can't
them a-
stand Roy Bowe, who owned the New York Nets at the time.
Right.
Because if that bastard didn't trade Julius to the Philadelphia
Don't-
76ers,
Ugh.
the Nets would have been the world champions of the NBA at least the first 2 or 3 seasons they were there.
It's possible.
They were the
It's
greatest
very
team
possible.
in basketball at the time.
Yep.
I mean, they had 12 players. Every time they switched, one player was better than the other.
So that New York Net team goes up against, let's just say they get into the NBA, they go up against Bill Wharton and Maurice Lucas. You're going to take the Nets team, right?
All day
That's
long.
what I'm taking.
The Lakers wouldn't have had a
Speak,
chance.
preach.
Wouldn't
Absolutely.
have had a chance
Yep.
against the New York Nets.
Yep.
And that last, I remember when we had that championship and we partied. It was huge. They piled at my godmother's house on Urban Avenue in Newcastle.
What was the turnouts like at those games at the Coliseum when Dr. J
It was packed.
Man, I wish I
It
could have
was
seen this.
packed.
When did the Nets play at the
74,
Comac
they won the
Arena?
title. They won
Wait a
the title in
minute. Didn't they play at the
76.
Comac Arena at
Both
some
those
point?
years.
No, they won for
They,
3
early,
titles. They won 3 titles.
1968, they played at the Comac Arena. They
All right,
lost
so
at the Coliseum.
final question.
They built the Coliseum for the New York Islanders
Right.
and the New York
Gotcha.
Nets.
Right.
That's right.
Correct.
And the Islanders were packing it in, but the Nets would pack it in when playoffs came around.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the ABA was faltering.
Yeah.
Dr. J did that Converse deal, and that stuff
And
took
he
off.
did that All-Star deal.
Yep.
I remember my brother had those sneakers, and I was a size 6,
Yep.
and he was a size 12, and I used to steal his sneakers.
Well, I think
won't lie.
I think we've covered about every kind of subject you could
I
cover
would
here.
think so.
One last question.
Except one thing.
Go ahead.
One thing.
One thing.
Please, if you can, please go to my GoFundMe page.
Yes,
It
sir.
helps my family out with my current situation and my medical duties. You can go to Dr. Dre to Fight Back on GoFundMe. And this spring in 2021, please support Yo Bigger Stuff, the Dr. Dre episodes, 1983 to 1995. And I'm going to bring it back here with a copy so we can talk about fun stuff. And you can say,
Absolutely.
Dre, what about this? I'll say it's right here in the book.
And the owner of the station says he's going to reach out to you because he wants to help out and with all the funding here. And this station has a pretty large reach. So
I would appreciate that. My family would appreciate that because, I've had a blessed early career. And the second half of my career deals in something that I have to reach out and help many people. Like I said, the master planner said to me, I'm going to wear this prosthetic out before it was all said and done. We're going to do a lot of moving and walking.
I
You're
believe
not just going to be talking, believe me. And I don't.
I believe it. In fact, sitting here in this interview, like I'm not going to get into it, but you made me see things that I knew that I didn't want to see, and you've changed some of my thoughts. I'm not going to get into it, but God
Then the
bless you.
blessing is all mine.
Final
And
question.
it has to be that with love.
Listen,
That's the only way I can do it.
absolutely, my friend. What is Dr. Dre's legacy?
I don't know. It hasn't been written yet. I know the beauty of my legacy. She sits right down there. That's my daughter.
Absolutely.
And my other 3 sons. That's
There you
my
go.
legacy to start. And I've been blessed with a beautiful family, some wonderful friends, and some delightful enemies.
Well, I'm going to say as a fan and as a fellow human being, we're blessed that you're on this earth because you are one incredible human being. And I mean that from the heart. Amazing.
Namaste.
Amazing. You've been watching Monte The Pharaoh, Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. You could see us on YouTube, the Monte The Pharaoh page, Facebook Live, Monte The Pharaoh page. Hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor. Catch us on Twitch TV, Monte The Pharaoh page. Catch us on channel 115 every Tuesday from 7 to 7:30 p.m., where you will see Dr. Dre in the
Abbreviated.
version.
There you go.
Also on Saturday at 6 a.m. to 6:30 on channel 115, and catch us on channel 20 Friday mornings at 2 in the morning from 2 to 2:30. This has been Mike Monty.
This has been the Pharaoh, and hopefully the Master Planner will allow us to see you again very shortly with our upcoming guest from Big Brother,
Gina Marie Zimmerman.
Later.